Maybe my favorite game of the week, though, Ravens versus Commanders. Lamar Jackson and Jayden Daniels taking center stage. So many fascinating components in this one. Daniels said earlier this week he doesn't like comparisons to Lamar because they're both different quarterbacks in their own right. But the one thing we can agree on, they're both incredibly dynamic. The Commanders' defense has fared well, by the way, the past couple weeks, but they haven't faced a quarterback like Lamar Jackson. Lamar ranks 5th in total QBR and 2nd in yards per dropback, as well as combined pass and rush yards. He's also thrown 9 touchdowns to just 1 interception. He enters Sunday with a 6-0 record versus starting rookie quarterbacks in his career. RC, how do you think the Washington defense will game plan for Lamar and that offense?
Well, I mean, first of all, a lot of prayer. I think that's the first thing you need to do. I think this is one of the weeks where you call your Southern Baptist mama and she tells you God is real. And then after that, you try to figure out what you can do based on the football field. And look at the Cincinnati, the Cincinnati Bengals last week. They said that they were going to force Lamar Jackson to beat them from the pocket. And I do think you have to attempt to do that. But we saw guys like Rashad Bateman and especially Zay Flowers win. We saw that 13 personnel be able to stretch the football field. And so now the Baltimore Ravens have put you in this conundrum that's gone from will Lamar run it or will Derek run it to will the run game kill you or will the pass game kill you? And so if you think about the Commanders and what they tried to do versus the Cincinnati Bengals was stop the run with people in the box and then go too high, because every time they went single, they were killed by Jamar Chase. I truly think this is a pickle. I think you stack the box early and try to pressure the quarterback late because they were able to get there.
Pickle.
I love hearing you say a pickle for some reason. Here's the thing about the Commanders' defense. They don't play base. They have put 4 DBs on the field just 3 times this season, which is the lowest of any team in the NFL. They live in nickel. And boy, does Baltimore love to run the football on nickel, averaging over 6 yards per carry. They love putting those heavy bodies on the field and running the ball against lighter bodies. RC, you talked about, seeing God. If you want to see God or get closer to it, try to tackle Derrick Henry as a DB, and you'll find out real fast. If the Commanders do stack the box, I think that's where you start seeing some of those one-on-one matchups that also favor Baltimore that you talked about. Yeah. I wish we had talked about Zay Flowers a little bit more early in the week. He was fantastic. It jumped out to me on tape how good he was. Made some difficult catches, ran some really explosive routes. And I feel like that could be a huge issue for Washington as well, is if they double down on stopping the run.
Yeah, I love that y'all brought up Zay Flowers and Bateman, because my thing with Dan Quinn is when you do decide to pressure, and there's some recall, obviously, with a super athletic quarterback in Kyler Murray that they faced 2 weeks ago, and they did a pressure with the spy. Both of you mentioned, but this is the one high situation, RC, and this is the conundrum that you may have to live in. Can you cover long enough on the back end to let that materialize? And while you're pressuring, will you have somebody to have eyes on Lamar Jackson like they did with Kyler Murray here? This is the issue, because Lamar is really good against pressure. And also while he's extending plays, keeping his eyes downfield. But I don't believe if you're Dan Quinn, you can sit back and let it happen to you from the Baltimore Ravens. So he'll have to be opportunistic when he sends pressure. Also be cautious enough to have somebody athletic enough in space to at least slow up so the whole team can rally to the quarterback.
To Mina's point, you have to remember that Dan Quinn and Joe Wood Jr., who's the defense coordinator, he was the pass game coordinator in Dallas. No one played sub more than they did last year because they were a high volume of 3 safety defenses as well. They don't really have those pieces this year, but that's something to look at this weekend when they face one another.
Dan, for all this talk about the Ravens offense and Lamar and Derrick Henry and Zay Flowers, whoever, there's somebody else. It's like an untold hero in some ways.
It's Patrick Ricard. I mean, it's really, the Ravens offense has like 4 bigs. And when it comes to Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, Charlie Kolar, and Patrick Ricard. And I think the challenge is, how do you treat those guys? This is with Ricard, Isaiah Likely, and Andrews on the field. And Cincinnati matched, to everyone's point, base defense. So they got 7 bigs. But this just looks like 21 personnel. All of a sudden, it's play action pass. Mina and RC talked about Zay Flowers. There's 7 guys in protection, and it's really just a one-on-one route up top. How does Washington even align pre-snap with that to not make it so easy for Baltimore's offense. Well, that was play action. Now you have Ricard, Mark Andrews, and Charlie Kolar to the right. They have 8 bigs on the field defensively now. You motion over is likely a receiver here, because now that linebacker's stuck in no man's land. Charlie Kolar's running downfield, but Ricard's running like a wheel route, and you're just so outmatched. And then you get to the end of the game, and this is why Ricard matters. That's a whiff block by the wide receiver on Hendrickson. So it's like, and being real, I'm not trying to be funny here, you can make the case that like they have to treat Isaiah Likely as a tight end at times, but then also a wide receiver. But then you have to treat Patrick Ricard, and again, I'm not trying to be funny, as an offensive lineman at times. So you might add another defensive lineman on the field, but then guys running routes. I think that's the big challenge for Washington, hearing how everyone defensively, they want to line up. They can't against that set in Baltimore.
Woo. I just want to say 4 verts with Patrick Ricard was my favorite moment of the weekend. If Baltimore does that again and they let him go vertical and he catches a football, I am buying a Patrick Ricard jersey. Just let Patrick Ricard cook, man. Just one wheel route. That's all I ask. Just one wheel route.
Yeah, listen, usually when she asks for something, she gets it. So hopefully that happens. All right, new on NFL Live, who wore it better?
Okay, so, listen. This game, right, and as they highlighted, the Ravens obviously have a lot of options. And I know Dan Quinn has went up against, another mobile quarterback like Kyler Murray and stuff like that. But make no mistake about it, Kyler Murray is not Lamar Jackson. And the weapons that the Ravens have to work with, as very well highlighted by all these guys, especially Dan Orlovsky, that the Ravens have some options, and Dan Quinn and that defense will have their hands full, right? So really, this game, for the Commanders to have any chance it feels like to win this game, it's really going to be more on the back of that offense of Jayden Daniels. It's can they put up a lot of points, because the Commanders or the Ravens have struggled defensively, and that's how you're going to beat them, right? It's going to be. And a lot of times this is going to sound funny, right? You got to score more points than the other team, but it's like sometimes game plans are like you just got to stop the other team from scoring more points than your team, right? And this feels like, no, the Commanders are going to try their best to slow down Lamar Jackson and the offense, but they will probably get their numbers, right? They will probably move the ball, get their points, have some pretty big plays. And that's what I would almost go in and talk to Jayden Daniels from the beginning and be like, hey, this is Lamar Jackson. This is the Ravens. They're going to put up points too, right? Like you're going to have a drive and maybe you're going to go 3 and out, or maybe you get a couple first downs, but it doesn't go anywhere and we punt, and they're going to march down the field, and in 5 minutes, they're going to score a touchdown. Just be prepared for that feeling, right? Be prepared. Don't have it be like, oh my God, it's 7-0. Oh, it's 14-0. Whatever it may be, 14-7, or you put a touchdown up and now you're feeling pretty good about it. All right, we're good, we're cooking. And then immediately the Ravens now score, right? Like, you don't have this let you swing. Just be like, yeah, okay, we expect it. And again, one of my favorite analogies for this would be like kind of like a Steph Curry, right? Steph Curry is going to make threes. He's going to make crazy threes. He's going to make his logo threes. If in the middle of a game you're playing defense against him and he shoots up a logo 3 or a really deep 3 or just a crazy 3 and he makes it, if you're a defender, if you hang your head and go, oh, or go like this, you're doing it wrong. You know he's going to be able to do that. So he does it and you say, okay, treat it like a layup, because that is a layup for Steph. So it's like, it's all good. All right, we're on to the next one now. We're on to the next play, right? Because otherwise you treat it like, I can't believe he did that. And it sucks your energy out of you. It takes you out of your body. You start to get up in your head. You start to think to yourself too much. And now you're no longer really in the moment. And it just ends up hurting you more than it should, rather than just be like, all right, whatever. Yeah, he made that. Of course he made that. And a lot of great coaches, will tell you that. Like, of course the guy's going to put up 30 points. Of course he's going to knock down 6, 7, 8 threes. Just the way it goes, man. That's who he is. To not expect that is to be confused. And so to me, that's what would be a lot of these meetings and these conversations should have with the Commanders of like, the Ravens will most likely get theirs in this game. There's a chance they won't. There's a chance we can slow them down, but just be prepared. And again, you don't say this to the defense. You're saying this to the offense. You're saying this more so to Jayden and things of that nature. And honestly, maybe even the defense. You're probably going to be like, hey, they're going to have their big plays. They're going to have their big moments. It's not the end of the world. Just because they rip off a really big splash play or Derrick Henry rips off for a 35-yard run doesn't mean we all of a sudden say, we can't stop these guys. How are we supposed to stop them? They're just too big. They're just too strong. There's too many weapons, right? It's no, they're going to get theirs. So I take that back. You do say that to the defense. You let them know, yeah, this is what's happening. And so, yeah, the way how this game is going to unfold is just going to be really interesting to me. And in a lot of ways, we saw the Bengals kind of get off to this start versus the Commanders, where I wish I had those notes, but I don't now, so I don't remember exactly how it unfolded. But it was like the Bengals scored pretty effortlessly, and then the Commanders came back and scored pretty effortlessly, and it was like, okay, this is good. And then they stopped them, and then the Commanders went back and scored again, right? They were able to just get that momentum back and then really start to stack on their own momentum. They might not have that same opportunity versus the Ravens, but it's still the idea of you score, I score, you score, I score, you score, and we don't score, and you score again. It's all good. The game is not getting out of control for us. We're not starting to drown now in this idea of, oh my God, they're just too big, they're just too strong, right? And you just have the water kind of just going up above. It's just, no, this is good. We got this, right? So much of this game is going to be like, we got this, we got this. And that is the thing that impressed me more than anything, more than the throws, more than anything else, than the runs. It was just the continual rising to the occasion of that offense for Jayden Daniels and the Commanders, specifically versus that Bengals game. To me, there was many moments in that game that the moment could have gotten to them, or that they could have just failed simply, and not even in a negative way. It was just they wouldn't be able to pull it off, which would have been totally okay and acceptable and understandable. But they were able to do it. They were able to convert key downs. They were able to score when the momentum was swinging. They were able to just rise to the occasion and do what needed to be done in the moment that it was needed. And that was just the most impressive for me. And so the real question is will they be able to do that, right? This is most definitely not a fair comparison because it is indeed the Kansas City Chiefs, but that is ultimately what separates the Chiefs from every other team and why they've been able to win, not even just these last couple of years, but just years in general. It's just they're able to do what needs to be done when it needs to be done, right? While a lot of these other teams, they don't. They just can't get it. When they need that first down, when they need that touchdown instead of that field goal, they don't get it. Whether it's the Bills, whether it's been the Ravens, whether it's been the 49ers, the Eagles, any of these teams that have gone up against the Chiefs. Whereas the Chiefs, they get it done. They do what needs to be done when it needs to be done. That is what the Commanders have been able to do, obviously on a much smaller scale, and really only more so versus the Bengals than anything else, because that was really the one game that had the most intensity, whereas the Browns and the Cardinals, that game was, for those games for the most part, were pretty easy. But the Bengals, this is your chance now to prove, yeah, you know what? That was not an outlier. That was not just a random occasion or just a great moment. That's actually who we are. That is actually how well we are prepared, how mature we are, how great Jayden Daniels is already, right? So, yeah, I'm really curious to see how it all unfolds. I can't make any predictions really for this game with any degree of confidence. So, this is just going to be an awesome game to watch, honestly. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Washington Commanders versus the Ravens? What do you think it'll take for the Commanders to win this game? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.